It's time for Wes Strader's Sportsline on ESPN Radio 102.7. Sportsline is a locally produced sports talk show that focuses on high school and WKU as well as regional athletes who play at the next level. Sportsline was originated by Hall of Fame sportscaster Wes Strader. Now with a new version of Sportsline, here's Garret Browning on ESPN Radio 102.7.
Good afternoon to you sports fans. Welcome to Sportsline.
Nobody could say it better, so why not start the show off with the legend Wes Strader. A happy Monday afternoon here on August 26th, and it is football time across the Bluegrass. We had high school week 1 this past weekend. We're going to visit with Brian Webb out of our first break. There is no Sports Webb tomorrow, on from 5 to 6, usually on Tuesdays. Actually, a really good podcast last week if you didn't get to catch it. Brandon Dowdy was in studio talking about everything from the combine to life in the NFL, telling a couple of Jeff Brom stories, maybe even what to expect from this year's team. So highly suggest you check out that podcast. But no Sports Web tomorrow, so Brian will come on with us here early on the show. We'll talk about some big high school wins, some big high school upsets. Franklin Simpson, defending state champion, two-time defending state champion, fell in week 1 to Greenwood. Warren Central put up 56 points on the road against Apollo to try and break their losing streak and ended up falling by 10 points. But, man, that was a fun game to keep up with while I was working the Warren East Raiders. They put up 48 points on Russellville. We'll go through all these scores out of the break, but the breaking news, you may have heard it. It's been all over Twitter. It's been all over Facebook, but I'll let the guy himself tell you how he feels.
Hello. This certainly isn't how I envisioned this or planned this, but I am going to retire. This is not an easy decision. Honestly, it's the hardest decision of my life, but it is the right decision for me. For the last 4 years.
It's too sad. I can't play the whole thing right now. We'll play the whole thing later. That is Andrew Luck's retirement post-game presser, even though he wasn't in the game. He's been injured throughout the preseason. Just a shock to not just the NFL world, but the sporting world in general. A top 5, top 6 quarterback in the NFL, in that tier of elite quarterbacks, and arguably still in his prime. I mean, just 7 years in the NFL, but the toll it took on his body, it took on his mind, and Andrew Luck announced his retirement just 10 days before week 1 for the Indianapolis Colts. So Jacoby Brissett will have to take over. We'll get into that and much more here later in the show. Of course, Central Arkansas will open up against the Hilltoppers this Thursday. It's the home opener, season opener. We've got a special Red Towel Radio and Topper Tailgate outside of the WKU store. We do Topper Tailgate the pregame before Randy Lee's pregame show on radio. We'll be out there hanging out in the trailers, so come on, stop by. Hopefully we'll have a couple of cool guests. I think Todd Stewart is going to plan on stopping by, so we'll give you all the Hilltopper breakdown on Topper Tailgate come Thursday. Another AFC South tidbit, aside from the Andrew Luck news, was that Lamar Miller, the star running back for the Texans, I believe a Pro Bowler, at least one of the last couple of seasons, has been a kind of that dump down guy for Deshaun Watson, not DeAndre Hopkins, but Deshaun Watson, and he tore his ACL this past weekend in their preseason game. They signed Jay Ajayi as a result of that injury, but that could be a big, big blow for Deshaun Watson and the Texans offense that has kind of slowed down after his huge start to his rookie season. He started to struggle just a little bit more, so all of a sudden the AFC South, it is night and day what you would expect from these teams. I feel like the Jaguars were an easy last-place pick. Now, all of a sudden, the Colts look like they could be dead in the water with their backup quarterback, and it's just given everybody some renewed confidence. So we'll get into that a little bit further along into the show. You're listening to the Wes Strader Sportsline here on 102.7 FM, ESPN Radio 102.7.com. I'm Garret Browning. Follow me on Twitter at Garret Browning5 if you want to hop in, ask a question, and let's hear from Brian Webb coming up out of this break on ESPN Radio.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. You know what's music to the insurance company's ears? Hearing that someone who was injured in a crash did not hire a lawyer, because that means the insurance company won't have to pay them what they deserve. Their own research shows that people who hire a lawyer recover 3 times more. What's music to my ears? Hearing that we helped a client recover full value for their case. If you've been injured, dial pound law on your cell, and you could recover 3 times more. There's only one Morgan & Morgan. Offices, Bowling Green.
Groove and Glow is coming to Glasgow. Entertain Glasgow and TJ Regional Health present the biggest event to hit Glasgow this year. Groove and Glow, landing at the Glasgow Municipal Airport Saturday, September 21st. TJ Regional Health and Entertain Glasgow are proud to bring this phenomenal, free family event to Glasgow this fall, featuring tethered hot air balloon rides, food trucks, kids' activities, and much more, including a concert by Adam Doliak. Plus a balloon glow and spectacular fireworks as the evening's grand finale. Groove and Glow is made possible by TJ Regional Health, celebrating 90 years of service to South Central Kentucky. By Entertain Glasgow, American Engineers, the City of Glasgow, and Commonwealth Broadcasting. Groove and Glow, coming to the Glasgow Municipal Airport, Saturday, September 21st, starting at 4 p.m. Presented by Entertain Glasgow and TJ Regional Health.
Celebrate your child's next birthday with the Bowling Green Hot Rods. Toss a strike as your birthday child gets to throw out a ceremonial first pitch, while up to 10 guests attend the party. Pizza or hot dog packages are available and include a reserved table with game tickets, Dippin' Dots to celebrate, and a special visit from either Roscoe or Axel. Call now to schedule your child's next birthday party with the Hot Rods at 901-2121. Bowling Green Hot Rods Baseball. Fun-tastic.
Absolutely. I'm always looking for Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle, Jackie Jack, and I have been through a lot together. I'm going to miss him a lot on the football field, but we're friends forever.
Oh, man, it gives me chills. Jack Doyle, Andrew Luck, the bromance is coming to an end. It's hard to put exactly into words how everybody's feeling about the situation, but who is best at coming up with random words than our man Brian Webb, the Sports Web? It'll be off the air tomorrow, usually 5 to 6 on Tuesdays, but of course on Wednesdays you can tune in to Soki Outdoors and the Rock Castle Gun Show, 5 to 6 and 6 to 7. Brian, just how did you react when you first saw that news? Did you think it was a fake tweet like I did?
You know, I actually got it secondhand, Garrett. Thanks for having me on, man, from sunny Florida. I'm down here in the Gulf enjoying a little halftime at work and halftime at play, and it's been good. And I tell you, I would have not it blindsided me, and I thought of you really quickly when I was told, and I really couldn't wait to hear your thoughts on that. And I heard the fans didn't exactly give him a warm goodbye there when it first broke.
Well, and evidently he was supposed to announce the news on Sunday. Again, Brian Webb, the Sports Web, joining us. We'll talk a little high school in a bit, but we got to get to this Andrew Luck stuff. Yeah, he was supposed to announce his decision on Sunday, the day after the game, and of course the news got leaked. And so all of a sudden everybody in the stadium figures out that the quarterback in street clothes on the sideline isn't going to stand there very much longer. And they took out some frustration on him, and I'm interested to hear what you think about it. Are you on this side of, kind of backing him and backing his story, or are you kind of on the fan side of, look, it's 10 days before the season. There were better opportunities to do this.
Garrett, I'm gonna sway on the side of, I think these guys, even including Andrew Luck, probably wasn't sure up until the 11th hour kind of thing. And I believe that, him getting beat up so many times, we've seen him, go through so many different injuries. And, not everybody's Steve McNair, man. I mean, this guy, he's had a few bad ones. And, I feel like it's you got to look at the organization itself. And when you really want to play these guys, I get a playoff situation or something like that. If you're 70 or 80%, these guys back in the day, they got out there when they were, still bleeding from a compound fracture sometimes and played. So, I mean, it's just, you got to put it in perspective that way. But I think Andrew Luck, his body of work, I feel like you got to give the guy a break, and I hope to see everybody kind of say goodbye to him in a great manner, and that's starting to happen. But totally on his side, if he thinks he's going to, hurt himself really bad and can't physically do it anymore, you can't be on the side of danger. You got to kind of see how it works out individually, and I think that's what we're seeing.
I think what surprised me the most with the fan reaction was when you look at Andrew Luck throughout his career, he's not one of those guys that causes a lot of drama by any means. I mean, he's charismatic, but he's not dangerously charismatic. He's always working hard for his team, and I think usually when we see situations like this, sudden retirements or, holdouts, whatever the case may be, it's with a guy that's always surrounded with a little bit of drama or a little bit too charismatic. And we see this with a guy like Andrew Luck that's just 100% the opposite. I mean, he's just so down to earth. He seems like he loves football, and all of a sudden hearing him talk about his losing the love for the game and all that stuff, it just comes as a shock to somebody that's watched him just especially beat up on my team for the last 7 years.
Yeah, well, and let's talk about that. Great segue, because this really does. I think it even shoves Tennessee maybe up into a preseason first situation. I'm not really sure, but I was really looking forward to getting your thoughts on how is that going to help a little bit, or at least take the stranglehold off there in that tough division.
Well, you got to think that Andrew Luck never lost to the Titans. Retire while you're on top, buddy. I've told everybody, every one of my friends, he's all of a sudden become my new favorite all-time Colt. Retire on top, buddy. I'm okay with it. But you got to think it opens up some more opportunities for the Titans. I think the biggest thing is now you go back to that Taylor Lewan suspension. And with Andrew Luck healthy, you kind of are thinking, all right, second or third place in the division is not that bad because of how good the Colts are, and who knows what the Jags or the Texans can be. Of course, the Texans lost Lamar Miller, which opens, it opens the door even more.
Ajayi, I think, Garrett, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, no, that's correct. And they did have a rookie running back, Deontay Foreman, that took some carries away from Lamar Miller, I believe, last year. So, they still have a couple of pieces. Just Lamar Miller's a little more consistent.
Yeah.
I think the big thing now is, those first 4 games are going to be huge, because if you can get off to a good start, you feel like you have a slight advantage in the division over most teams. I think the Texans may still be a little better just because of their defensive front.
And their quarterback,
Deshaun Watson. But, all of a sudden he's kind of had some early preseason troubles. Granted, it's the preseason, but, the Titans look the same way. They've struggled throughout this preseason, man. Ryan Tannehill's looked okay, but the offensive line has not looked very good, and especially with Taylor Lewan not getting those first-team snaps. I mean, Dennis Kelly got brutalized last night versus the Steelers, 7 sacks. So, it doesn't, by no means does it fix the Titans' problems, but it does give them a bigger vow of confidence, for sure. There's no way.
I would like to get your thoughts on this, Garrett. Mariota, I don't think completed. I think he only attempted 3 last night. So, what's going on there?
That was part of the offensive line too. I mean, Coach Vrabel at halftime said, "Look, we just didn't protect him." I mean, and there's a point, and we want to see him complete some passes and get in a rhythm, but if he's going to be under pressure all night, then just pull him out of the game. I mean, it's a preseason game. I don't care if he goes 0 for 3 and doesn't play another drive. That's just kind of the way the game played out. But it's tough, man. I think Tannehill's put more pressure on him. I don't think there's a quarterback controversy, but I do think that if Marcus's play is the reason that the Titans aren't winning games and they're sitting at a 500 point halfway through the season, I mean, it's pretty possible that Tannehill could come in immediately. And one thing I've thought about behind this too is Marcus Mariota is a free agent at the end of the season. If you get 7 or 8 games into this season and it's not going to be the answer, he's not going to do it, I mean, you still have till week 10 to trade him. And there are a lot of teams out there that would love to, figure out a little sign and trade or trade and sign, however that works, to get a quarterback that's not on the free agent market, and they wouldn't have to pay as much money for him when he went to the free agent market this summer. So I think that's something for Titans fans to keep their eye on, especially if it's a disappointing start to the season.
Well, it's like this. I see every bit of what Vrabel's after a safety. I think I didn't get to see the start of the game. I watched a little bit of the replay this afternoon. But in lieu of getting the guy hurt, you wouldn't put a Ferrari out there in a bumper in a figure eight situation on the Friday night of the county fair. I mean, you're not going to do that because it's going to get banged up. That's the last thing the Titans need. With an uncertainty of what Tannehill could do. And I think in lieu of an injury, we won't see Tannehill start a game this year.
Yeah, you're in sunny, I almost said Las Vegas. I'm used to saying sunny Las Vegas for our man Frank.
I'm always in Las Vegas in my head.
Yeah, you're in sunny Florida, though. You're away from the fall weather that's creeping up on Kentucky. It's not too cold, but no sun today, a little chilly, just a little chilly. But how was that Florida-Miami game from your perspective? Did you get to watch any of that, or were you around any crazy Florida-Miami fans?
I did get to see bits and pieces of that game, kind of like like Pulp Fiction, like one of those films. I got to see bits and pieces of it.
Try to piece it together at the end, what happened?
Yeah, I tried to piece it together, figure it out, but, it looked like it was volleying back and forth, and I want you to tell me, because I didn't get to see who actually ended up winning that game. What a big game. But I've been on an absolute karaoke streak like you've never seen in your life. And so I've been singing a lot on down here. They have some great places to sing, and I love to do that.
Well,
it's a lot of fun.
I know you're on vacation. I appreciate you taking the time to visit with me real quick.
Absolutely.
I had to get your plug in for Sports Webb. We'll get to some high school football here. I know you weren't here, but I know you kept up with some of those scores, and I know you interviewed all those coaches before the games too, which meant a lot. But I think the biggest one that stuck out to me was I was listening to that Coach Strader interview on Kentucky Game Night and talking about BG's tough schedule throughout the season. They took a tough loss, man, to Father Ryan, 24-21, trailing early, kind of came back, took the lead. Father Ryan took back the lead late. What do you think about the Purples moving forward? I mean, one loss to a really good Tennessee school. I mean, it doesn't hurt you that much, right?
Well, it almost sounds to me like, and like you said and alluded to, Garrett. I know the outcomes. I don't know all the scores. I know the Greenwood game was humongous for them and Coach Will Howard. But as far as the Purples go, I mean, they're the Purples, man. They get knocked down, they get back up, and we haven't seen it as much over a long stretch. But that also tells you there's going to be times when the circumstances are harder, and this team will, I believe, definitely make a run in the playoffs. But they have one of those kind of schedules that if they can get through there without getting banged up, the Purples are going to be fine. So I mean, we're lucky enough to have the kind of high school football that a coach, not just in Strader, but these other guys too, can. If they've got some talent, they're able to move the chess pieces around and make a game out of it. And it sounds like, from what you're telling me and other people have told me, the Purples played really hard against a really good football team.
Yeah, they may have a little QB controversy. I think Spencer Newman was taking the majority of those snaps later in the game as well, which I think Cooper was the scheduled starter. I'm not exactly sure. I
have no idea.
I didn't get to make it out to Rafferty's Bowl, but Spencer Newman was not one of the players at Media Day, so I think they kind of had to throw him in the mix, but he came up big. He threw a couple of touchdowns, couldn't pull out the win. Before I let you go, I want to get just a couple more takes on some high school football teams. You mentioned Greenwood with their huge win over Franklin Simpson, Coach Howard, 28-14. But two other games that really stuck out to me, South Warren
Central.
South Warren 33-20 over Butler Louisville, and you mentioned it.
Great win.
Warren Central on the road at Apollo, man, just unreal. I was working that Warren East game, and I had to refresh Twitter like every 5 minutes, man. I was hoping so bad they could pull that game out, but nonetheless, it's got people excited for what they can do for the rest of the season. And Coach Carey, man, it took a little while for that program to get rejuvenated, but in one game, you kind of feel it already.
It's amazing, what a summer can do, and with a guy at the helm that brings some more stuff to the table as well, and you put that together, and some of these younger kids are older now. From Coach Taylor's great job that he's done there, piecing that together and keeping that Warren Central Dragon team, looking forward for greater things, and we're seeing it culminate right now, Garrett. And I was so excited. And your Warren East Raiders, the Kenway Bowl, I hear that was a really good game and a pretty big win there in a scoring fashion.
Oh yeah, put it on them 48-0, a great week 1 win. But now they get a big old South Warren, so that'll be a tough week 2 matchup. But man, it'll be a lot of fun to call here on ESPN Radio. That game's actually going to be at Western too in the German American Bowl. So I guess South Warren got a head start. Man, they already played 1 game at Western. That's not fair.
They were just like the what's the Grand Marshal in the parade, They basically just opened up the floodgates for festivities at Western because we got Central Arkansas coming in, and I'm sure you guys will chat about that later, and I'm looking forward to see what you're saying about that matchup.
Yeah, we'll tease it up just a little. We'll save most of that for Thursday, our special Topper Tailgate Red Towel radio show from outside the WKU store. You'll probably come hang out with us for a little, right? You going to be in town?
I'll be the first to the 4th one there. Somewhere in there, I will be there. Absolutely. Can't wait.
Thank you, Brian. And Sports Web, again, it is off air tomorrow. But last week, man, we had Brandon Dowdy in studio. You played golf with him, got him in studio. Personally, you've got to interview a lot of cool people in your life. Was that one of the cooler interviews you got to do on ESPN Radio?
I'm going to say absolutely yes. And I've, like you said, I've gotten lucky enough to talk to some really cool people that have, done really cool things in their lives. But to have Brandon there being a fan and interviewing him in a sports sense, that's a day at the ballpark and ice cream after and no traffic on the way home. And you got a new toy waiting for you when you get there. That's kind of that feeling. And that's what it was like to, and just, talking to him outside the studio, it's cool to hear his thoughts on things. And he's got a really good sports mind. And from what I hear, you're going to be able to see him as a color commentary on ESPN covering the WKU Central Arkansas affair coming up.
Yeah, I was going to try and drag him out to a Topper Tailgate if we could, but he might be too busy doing some production work for ESPN Plus.
He may have quickly become too big for us, Garrett. It happens, man. It happens. No, what a great career at Western, and just the all-around super good guy. And there's a lot you're going to be. There's a lot coming out with. I think Brandon Dowdy's just starting his football career basically, but he's always sitting there. You never know, Garrett. This time of year, things happen, man, and people need a quarterback. He's definitely still able to put the pads on.
He could sling the pigskin still, that's for sure. That is Brian Webb of ESPN Radio. No Sports Web tomorrow, but go to ESPNRadio1027.com, click podcast, go to the Sports Web, and click the latest podcast if you want to hear that interview with Brandon Dowdy. Well, Webb, have a wonderful time in Florida. Try not to end up on that, Florida man list, Florida man arrested for whatever. We don't need you doing that.
Unless I'm jaywalking, I should be okay.
Make it back to Kentucky safe. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, buddy. Take care. Thanks.
That's Brian Webb. Appreciate him joining us. He's all the way in sunny Florida, but he got a chance to talk to a lot of these high school coaches before week 1, so I was interested to see what he thought about some of those scores. Obviously, we'll go through the list here. Some of the bigger ones, bigger upsets first. Greenwood over Franklin Simpson, 28-14. Apollo just over Warren Central. That was in Owensboro as well, I should point out. 66-56. South Warren over Butler. Louisville, 33-20. BG, tough loss to Father Ryan High School out of Nashville, Tennessee, 24-21. Some scores around the area. Glasgow over LaRue County this weekend, 35-13. E-Town over Allen County, Scottsville, 42-0. Warren East over Russellville, 48-0. In Portland, Tennessee over Edmonson County, 35-6. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll play that full Andrew Luck presser for you. Well, not the full presser, but the full 2.5-minute beginning part of the presser, which is the most important part. And we'll talk about the outlook for the Indianapolis Colts moving forward. A lot of talk about Jacoby Brissett being a good starting NFL quarterback, but he's going to be thrown into the reins this season. I'm interested to hear from Colts fans. 270-782-1945. That is 270-782-1945. If you'd like to call in with your Andrew Luck take, or maybe a take about the AFC South outlook for the Tennessee Titans moving forward. And we'll get into the Central Arkansas WKU football home opener this Thursday. Again, Red Towel Radio and Topper Tailgate will be there for the majority of that one. I believe Todd Stewart is going to stop by the studio and hang out with us for a little bit, and we'll get the full preview there, but we'll tease it up just a little bit, talk about WKU and their new starting quarterback, Steven Dunking. That's coming up next here on ESPN Radio 102.7 and ESPN Radio 1027.com.
Come join Gilly Hot Auto Group for the 10th annual Cruising for a Dream Car Show on Saturday, August 31st at the Cave City Convention Center. All proceeds go to benefit the great works done by the Dream Factory. The show is open to all years, makes, and models of hot rods, muscle cars, classics, trucks, motorcycles, antique tractors, and more. There'll be over 60 awards, door prizes, 50-50 drawing, a huge silent auction, craft parts and food vendors, and much more. Join us for the 10th annual Cruising for a Dream Car Show, Saturday, August 31st at the Cave City Convention Center.
They're going to jump out of trees. You can't stop them. They'll go down the slide head first. They'll make parachutes out of sheets. They'll balance on things that are impossible to balance on, like the back of a couch or a windowsill or a scooter seat. They'll run with sharp objects. They'll run into walls. They'll climb things that won't hold their weight. They'll put their fingers in places where they could get smashed. They'll drive their tricycles down steep hills. They'll bounce balls off their faces. They'll step on each other. They'll jump on each other. They'll invent whole new ways to put themselves in jeopardy. But one of the most dangerous things kids will do happens while they're sitting perfectly still. Kids who ride in a car without a booster seat are much more likely to suffer serious or fatal injury during a crash than kids in boosters. But amazingly, 80% of all kids who need them aren't in them. After a toddler seat and until they're 4'9", booster kids, and don't let them down.
Go to boosterseat.gov to learn more about the importance of boosters. A message from the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
Thanks for giving me a ride to the doctor. You're a good sister.
No, I'm a great sister. So I didn't know you got preventive screenings.
Better safe than sorry.
I know, but...
Hey, prevention's simple. Flu shots, screenings for heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and Medicare covers many of them.
You always were the practical one.
And the beautiful one.
Stay healthy, stay independent. Talk to your doctor about preventive benefits. For more information, visit Medicare.gov or call 1-800-MEDICARE. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Oh, yeah. If this doesn't get you hyped up, you've never been inside EA Diddle Arena or inside Houchins LT Smith Stadium getting ready for tip-off or kickoff. That's all I'm saying. We'll get the chance this Thursday to get back underway. Central Arkansas will come to Houchins LT Smith Stadium this Thursday. Steven Duncan will be the starting quarterback. Excuse me. We're expected to see Ty Story, though. That was according to Coach Tyson Helton. Really neck and neck is what it sounded like between that quarterback battle, but Steven Duncan, the youngster of the two, pulls out the victory. And Ty Story, a grad transfer, I'm sure if things don't go well, he'll obviously get his chances. It's going to be interesting to see what the Hilltoppers bring to the table Thursday, because we saw some ugly college football over the weekend. We saw some good college football, but if you watch that Florida versus Miami game, my goodness, sloppy, and that's exactly what you can expect the first couple of weeks of any level of football. I mentioned it a couple of times on the Warren East broadcast Friday night when we were looking at those Warren Central and Greenwood scores on Friday. Greenwood upset. Warren Central almost pulled a big upset on the road at Apollo, but when you get in these early season matchups, man, teams come out sloppy, and you never know who's going to get beat. The Tops have done it before to Central Arkansas. They've fallen under Willie Taggart back in the day. Of course, the loss to Maine last year. So it's going to be very important for the Hilltoppers, in my opinion, not just to get a win, but to look consistent at a certain point and look like they have a firm understanding of the Tyson Helton offense and what to expect. Of course, plenty of playmakers for the quarterbacks, whether it be out of the backfield, whether it be tied in with Fortenberry, wide receivers, Lucky Jackson. I know Garland LaFrance is listed as a wideout now. He's supposed to have a lot of speed, played a little running back last season. The big question is going to be that defense. Can the defense step up and answer the call and make sure that they do their due diligence against Central Arkansas, a team that they should handle, to say the least. They should handle this team and win the game, but you want to see that defense take a step forward. It seems like under Coach Clayton White that they have taken steps forward each and every week throughout the process. Of course, last year was tough because you take a step forward, you took 2 steps back most of the time, but a lot of that didn't have to do with the defense. It just had to do with being put in bad situations and having to throw a young defense to the wolves, basically. So we'll get the chance to see the full slate Hilltoppers in Central Arkansas this Thursday. I almost said Friday night, ready for high school football, but Central Arkansas, the Bears, the Purple Bears, Western Kentucky Hilltoppers Thursday. Topper Tailgate, Red Towel Radio before Randy Lee's pregame show. So we'll lead you all the way up until kickoff, the first 2 hours before kickoff. Keep it on ESPN Radio. Flip it over to Sam 100.7 once we get rolling on the IMG broadcast. The big news over the weekend from the NFL, the preseason news, it never stops, right? Andrew Luck retired this past weekend, so we'll go ahead and play you the first 2 minutes of his press conference. And I encourage people to listen to this, especially if you are one of those people that, kind of dogged him. Why are you quitting on the team with just 2 weeks left in this preseason, 10 days before the opening of week 1. I encourage you to listen to this and just listen to how he talks about the game and how it developed for him over the past 4 years.
Hello. This certainly isn't how I envisioned this or planned this, but I am going to retire. This is not an easy decision. Honestly, it's the hardest decision of my life, but it is the right decision for me. For the last 4 years or so, I've been in this cycle of injury, pain, rehab, injury, pain, rehab. And it's been unceasing and unrelenting, both in season, both in and off season. And I felt stuck in it, and the only way I see out is to no longer play football. It's taken my joy of this game away, and this. Sorry. I've been stuck in this process. I haven't been able to live the life I want to live, taking the joy out of this game. And after 2016, where I played in pain and was unable to regularly practice, I made a vow to myself that I would not go down that path again. I find myself in a similar situation, and the only way forward for me is to remove myself from football in this cycle that I've been in. Come to the
So that part to me was what really stuck out about the Andrew Luck news, the retirement news. Andrew Luck retiring from the Indianapolis Colts, just 7 seasons in the NFL, but man, one of the most elite quarterbacks in that span. From the second he really stepped in the door in Indianapolis, and listening to him talk and listening to him before all of this retirement news came about, that's really what makes me appreciate Andrew Luck, the football player, and appreciate what he's doing to retire and just keep his body safe, And I saw people on Twitter and on Facebook talking about, well, why didn't he just rehab? Everybody goes through pain. Everybody works in pain. But, it's a different animal in professional sports. And all the people out there that are hating on him for the most part, maybe some of them play professional sports. I know Doug Gottlieb got in there, and I think Dan Dockich even threw one out there. But, how many of these guys really played at the same level of Andrew Luck? And when you go back and you look at the injuries throughout his career, man, the shoulder, the neck, this calf, ankle, whatever it's been, cankle if you want to call it, whatever it's been this offseason that's kept him sidelined throughout the preseason, and apparently was going to sideline him. If he wasn't going to be sidelined throughout the season, he was going to have to play in pain once again, which he admitted he had already done in 2016 before he sat out the whole season in 2017. It's just, you feel sad, you feel bad for a guy like that who's really done everything he could for that Indianapolis Colts organization. Maybe, yes, he didn't fulfill the remaining years on his contract, but at the same time, he provided that Indianapolis organization when it was at its lowest point with an immediate return to relevancy. They have one season without Peyton Manning, And if you remember that season, going back to it, what was the whole thing throughout that NFL season for the bottom tier teams? Suck for luck. That was like the whole campaign. It was like they were running for president. Whoever was going to finish last that season was sucking enough to draft Andrew Luck. And that's exactly what the Colts did. And then they grab Andrew Luck, have one of the best quarterback prospects of the 21st century. I mean, everybody and their mother, their father agreed that Andrew Luck was the best prospect of the last 10 years when he came into the NFL, and he immediately showed it on the field. And I think that's what made me so upset, seeing so many Colts fans upset with him because he wanted to retire early and save his body. I mean, this is a Stanford graduate that could make millions of dollars doing anything else besides football. He's got the fame of being a quarterback in the NFL, and he's got the degree, he's got the smarts to back it up. I mean, everybody knows who Andrew Luck is and what kind of guy he is, and that's why it surprised me to see so much hate online for the guy. I mean, shoot, if you were in the same position, I think somebody on Twitter said it best. My dad told me after the first $5 million, go ahead and step away. And it's a good point. He's made so much money doing what he can. He's done a lot for that organization. So I wish Andrew Luck the best moving forward. Of course, as a Titans fan, it's good news to me. I mean, it's sad news, but it's good news to the Titans fans, especially if you watched that Steelers game last night where they looked atrocious. I mean, just sorry. 7 sacks. Tannehill didn't look good. Marcus Mariota only threw 3 passes and was on his backside basically the whole time. All 3 passes were incomplete, mind you. Derrick Henry hasn't taken a snap all preseason. For as much hype and anticipation as there is in this Titans season, they have done nothing to live up to that billing so far. And I know it's just the preseason, but you cannot totally discredit the preseason. Yeah, you can't credit everything. If a running back goes for 150 yards, whatever. But if you're giving up 7 sacks in a preseason game, that's going to spell danger, especially when you play the Cleveland Browns week 1 with Myles Garrett. We know the story. Taylor Lewan's out, so Dennis Kelly is in at left tackle right now. Jack Conklin didn't have a great season last year, injured a little bit of last season, so how is he going to respond? Roger Saffold, the new free agent signing, he hasn't looked particularly consistent at that left guard position, so you can rely on Derrick Henry all you want, but we haven't seen this man take a carry yet. And we haven't really seen the offensive line come to produce yet. So for Titans fans, it's just holding our breath, man. Just hold your breath. Hold your breath throughout this break. Actually, don't do that. That could be dangerous. Keep your eyes on the road and keep that dial where it's at. We'll wrap it up after this break here on the Sportsline, ESPN Radio.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
Some people say bigger is better. When it comes to buying a home or an ice cream sundae, wouldn't you rather go big? Insurance companies think that because they're bigger, they can pay injured people less than what they really deserve. But guess what? We're big too. As America's largest personal injury firm, we know that our size matters. If you're going up against a big insurance company, you need a big firm fighting for you. If we win big, you win big. There's only one Morgan & Morgan. Offices, Bowling Green.
If you're a single man under the age of 35, you'd probably like to know what the ladies are looking for on an online dating site. A guy who had a few drinks and later got pulled over for buzzed driving. See, that could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And doesn't a guy who's back living with his parents but calls them my roommates just scream Mr. Right?
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Sportsline here, 102.7 FM, 1450 AM, 1230 AM, and in Glasgow, and streaming wherever you have internet connection with mobile device, computer, whatever you got, ESPN Radio 1027.com. And if you're on the website, be sure to check out that podcast tab. Plenty of great podcasts, Soki Outdoors, Rock Castle Gun Show, Red Towel Radio, of course, the Sportsline, and the Sports Web, usually Tuesdays, 5 to 6, but no show tomorrow. Brian out of town on vacation. I know I woke him up from vacation to come on the show. I'm an evil, evil coworker. But But you can tune in Wednesday and hear those outdoor shows, and Thursday we'll have a special Red Towel Radio and Topper Tailgate. We're going to wrap things up here. Short show today. The Reds are kicking us off the airwaves. They are on the road at the Miami Marlins.